our line of Saturday night.
Call Doug. One is
Sewer lines? No,
data, and the other is because
Yeah, that'd be good to get that.
tonight on your desk,
Yeah, I see it here.
I put the final agreement, and I'm going to want to get that through the finances.
Yeah. I'd like to see that get ahead.
Yeah, when the council acts on this agreement, it's all on your agenda.
Suspend the rules.
Two first items are
No, they're always separate, and they're both from judicial review, because any ordinances after we have the public hearing, we do under final consideration. Oh, wait a minute. They might have put no, because
act on these three.
yeah, actually, you're right, all three.
Then I'll have you read.
What are you pulling out of? Huh?
Thank you.
I'm not pulling anything, but just Donna is pulling personal consultant.
I have a question for both of you.
I got it, that's in my committee.
And that's in place.
Yeah, I was thinking that it's not an extra that you set up, like the hearing for this.
Put it on my resolution sheet. Might not be there tomorrow, I hope you are. On that JR, what do you want to do? Just hold a meeting 5 minutes before we cancel it all out?
We have a few people ask.
For the rest of his life, man. I don't know what the people want to hear. No, it's for the rest of his life. Give me that.
She's under the weather. She
Well, all right. You want to Donna talk?
well, this one. Good evening and welcome to the January 14th City Council meeting. Let the roll call show that Alderman Sampson, Alderman Will Wood, and Alderwoman Mike Craig are absent. And Fred is not here yet, but most likely will be shortly. The minutes are in the packet. Are there any corrections? Or yes, Donna?
On page 7, when I was speaking of Tom Sherry, on the third line from the bottom of the paragraph, it says youth of this community, and it should have been youth, the young people, the youth.
We will have that corrected. Are there any other changes of the minutes? If not, they'll be adopted as amended. And the next we have items for final consideration. The first two are from the Judicial Review Committee.
Yes. The first one, the committee recommends the council adopt as proposed an ordinance creating Chapter 2.86 Missoula Municipal Code to be entitled Capital Improvement Program Fund, and I so move.
Are there any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Harrison.
Yes.
Hermes.
Yes.
Luceno.
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Yes.
Potts.
Yes.
Reidy.
Yes.
Rice absent. Shaffer.
Yes.
Shea.
Yes.
8-0.
The next one, the committee recommends the council adopt has proposed an ordinance amending Chapter 9.12 MMC entitled Fair Housing Law for the purpose of accommodating the federal 1988 Fair Housing Amendments Acts by amending Section 9.12.010 MMC, and I so move.
Are there any questions or comments? You could call the roll, please.
Hermes.
Yes.
Luceno.
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Yes.
Potts.
Yes.
Reidy.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Shea.
Yeah.
Harrison.
Yes.
8-0.
The next item on the final consideration is from the Plat Annexation and Zoning Committee.
Yes, the committee recommends the council adopt a resolution extending the corporate limits of the city of Missoula to incorporate within the boundaries of the city of Missoula a certain tract of land which is contiguous to the city, all of Block 23, Riverside Addition, and adjacent right-of-way as shown in Exhibit A, and I so move.
Are there any questions, comments? Would you call the roll, please?
Luceno.
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Yes.
Potts.
Yes.
Reidy.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Shea.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Hermes.
Yes.
8-0.
The next 1, 2, 3, 4 items are held in committee. And that brings us to number 6, public comments from the citizens. The 3-minute rule will be enforced.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, I'm here representing the MCAT board, the Montana Cable Access TV board that you are responsible for setting up. You will be receiving our monthly statement, but I would like to highlight a little of that. I know how much paper you get. I'd like to call attention to the fact that in the month of December, as busy as it was, we locally produced 88 programs. Of these, 49 were locally produced. We carried on our training program through that month, and 35 people took advantage of that. In our porta-pack use, we checked out 58 separate porta-pack uses. And our editing suite is constantly busy. There were 45 people that used that this month. I'd like to point out that you will be receiving, as you always do, our weekly program statement. But again, knowing how much paper you get, I'd like to call your attention to the fact that Friday evening and Sunday, our programs are devoted to church matters, locally sponsored, many of them locally produced. In addition to that, we had some programs that I think were of particular note, and some that are going to be of note in the coming few weeks. I hope that some of you were able to catch the broadcast of the Tutu events in Helena, which we were very happy to present to the public and save you a trip to Helena. Our library is now doing a monthly program which started in December. Have you taken note of the fact that there is avalanche danger? The Forest Service is now presenting some avalanche prevention films on our station. In the next week, we will be cooperating with the Museum of the Arts in a program over there. The important thing for me as a board member is that we are involving many different segments of the community. And I think that as members of the council, those of you who have not visited our studio are really missing an opportunity. I know that you have plenty of things to do, that you don't necessarily have to visit the fire station to know what's going on over there. But I do think for one time around, some of you who have not yet been down to see the station, that you have provided the city with should make an effort to stop by and see what we're doing. You will notice also on the weekly program that you receive and which is posted on the bulletin board out here that we are now, in response to a request from the council, putting a programming key to show you which items on that program are locally produced and which are imported, and which are premier programs on our cable casting. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Joan Christopherson, 910 Ronald. I do know a lot of you, but not that well.
Larry, do you have a question?
I do. Mrs. Christopherson, at the beginning, when you spoke, you said that you locally produced 88 programs and 49 of those are locally produced. Would you clarify that comment, please?
No, there are 88 programs, 61 hours of programming were presented, and of that number, 49 were locally produced.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
Thank you. Let the record show that Alderman Rice is now present. Are there any more comments from citizens? Yes, Mr.
Alderman Potts, Commission, Council members. My name is Dennis Taylor, and I currently live in Helena, but starting February 4th, I will be pleased to start my assignment as the Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Missoula. My family and I are excited and look forward with great joy, marred only, I think, by all of our concern about the events in the Middle East. But we look forward to joining the community. I look forward to working as part of your management team. I'll be able to attend council meetings for the next 3 weeks before I am officially on the payroll for the City of Missoula. I'm working each week with the legislative coordination that the city is developing for the Montana legislature, and being able to attend the meetings of the department heads each week. I look forward to working with you all.
Thank you, and welcome aboard. Thank you. Is there any other comments from citizens?
My name is Tracy Stone Manning, and I'm just going to read what I have here instead of waffle on. We are on the brink of war, and Missoula prides itself on being nationally recognized for its commitment to peace. A few of us in the city propose that the city lives up to this recognition in a symbolic show of peace by closing a street during the duration of the war, should there be one. We believe that this is a show that cuts to the quick of the matter in two ways. One, by closing a road, we recognize our need to cut back on oil. We would no longer be pointing a blaming finger on Washington, D.C. Instead, we would begin to accept the responsibility for our oil addiction. Two, we would recognize that every day there is war, there should be no business as usual at home. At the last Peace March, Mayor Kemmis joined the community members and students in a call for peace. But he said that we cannot call for peace as a community until we are peaceful individuals. We see a street closure as answering both of the mayor's points. Individually, we have to cut back on oil consumption and even inconvenience ourselves to sincerely protest this war. Communally, we have the chance to advocate such individual actions through a street closure. We have several other points. The street should be closed on the first day that the shots are fired. The street should remain open to public transportation. And also, we ask you to let us know what we need to do in order to enact such a proposal. We also realize that you're more familiar with street traffic flow than we are, so we're open to suggestions on which street to close. However, our preference would be North Higgins. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions? Would you give us your address for the record?
I would, 214 South 5th West. Can I submit this to somebody?
Thank you. Do we have any more comments from citizens?
Domain the Disorder. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just come here to speak to you about the recognizing Martin Luther King's birthday. I don't know why should I even say this, because it should have happened a long time ago. I don't know what to say even, but going from Montana to other states, it's very embarrassing to call myself a Montanan. And tomorrow being the 15th, I think we are coming to one of the best times to honor him. And unfortunately, President Bush declaring tomorrow as the final date for which Iraq has to withdraw is a shame itself, especially to take that day itself. I'm from the Black Students Union, from many other organizations, including from the Peace Coalition. And I think Martin Luther King basically stood for not just for the blacks, but for just for every human being who believed in dignity. I know Montana doesn't have many blacks around, but that's no reason. Are we not going to talk about the Lithuanians? What the Russians did? Just because we don't have any Lithuanians down here? Are we just going to turn our eyes away? Or are we just an island? As we know that no man is an island. Is there any questions that you would like to ask me?
I would like to have your name and address for the record.
Yeah.
Again.
Dominda Dezoysa, Dezoysa, 637 South 6th East, Missoula, Montana. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comments from citizens? Seeing none, the communications from the mayor, I don't have any communications. Next, we'll come to the consent agenda, and I will ask the clerk to read the items on the consent agenda.
Item A is to approve a contract with Missoula County for remainder of fiscal year 91 at a cost of $5,200 for the crime victim advocate position. Item B is a personnel consultant contract for the Parks Department for a contract with John S. Harris and Associates for $75 per hour. Item C is a contract with the University of Montana for a baseball internship to approve the internship for up to $1,600 for John Harvilla to serve as the intern on the baseball franchise project. Item D is a rental rehab agreement with the state to approve a contract with the state for fiscal year 91 rental rehab funding authorization of $51,000 after striking the venue clause. Item E is extension request for final plat filing deadline for Birchwood Meadows to July 10th, 91. Item F, extension request for final plat filing deadline for Sunset Terrace to August 14th, 1991. Item G, refer city floodplain regulation amendments to the Missoula Consolidated Planning Board for consideration at the January 15th, 1991 meeting. And H, approve medical retirement of Officer Dean Bonesack.
Is there any... Yes, sir.
I would like to have item B removed from the consent agenda and dealt with under the Finance and License Committee report.
Are there any other items that anyone wishes to pull from the consent agenda? Very well, we'll have one roll call vote on all of the items except item D. Call the roll, please. Check.
This is on 7 consent agenda items, items A, C, D, E, F, G, and H. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Potts.
Yes.
Reidy.
Yes.
Rice.
Yes.
Shaffer.
Yes.
Shea.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Hermes.
Yes.
Luceno.
Yes.
9-0.
We have this item B. Oh, I see. It'd be in right now. Next, we go to the committee reports. Cable TV committee.
Under cable TV, there's no action items. There is some information you may want to note in your packets. On your desk this evening, there was some information that should have appeared in your packet and didn't get there this weekend. You might want to check that. Some latest data from the Nielsen Media Research Company on the viewership of Channel 22 and MCAT programming on a weekly basis. You may find that useful for your information. Also, there is a letter that I believe Jim Nugent put in your packet, which is the same information on your desk, from Les Hilliard from the Rattlesnake Cable Company, which is quite important. Les is talking about the franchise agreement with the city and MCAT on carrying MCAT in the Rattlesnake. That will become important this Wednesday when we meet again to discuss what the city should do. Basically, Les is indicating that he does not wish to pay a city franchise tax, as he calls it, and he would be willing to carry MCAT on a free basis, but that has been non-negotiable so far with the council. Also, one of the things he's talking about is delaying our decision on a franchise with the Rattlesnake Cable Company based on a court case which the Supreme Court is now hearing concerning the state of Arkansas. And that evidently has went to the Supreme Court as the first case of its kind to go to the Supreme Court, and will have, no doubt, very large ramifications on cable access in the United States. And again, that meeting will be Wednesday at 4 p.m. And that's it.
Well, next, finance and license.
Yes, we'll go to the one that was taken off the consent agenda. Personal consultant contract for Parks Department. Although a quorum was not present, the members in attendance recommended the council approve a contract with John S. Harris and Associates for $75 per hour to provide personal counseling and intervention services at the Parks and Recreation Department, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. And I would so move.
Are there any questions, comments? Yes.
I asked this to be withdrawn from the consent agenda because I think the council needs some discussion on this, and I think we need more information also, even though some of that this is based on is confidential personnel information. I'm a member of the Conservation Committee and a member of the Park Board. I've attended all the conservation meetings. I have attended most of the Park Board meetings and read all the minutes. Had no idea that there was this much dissent down there, and I'm somewhat dismayed that it comes to the floor for me to find out about it in that manner. I think we need to look into this thoroughly. Somehow our system is not working if we have at least 3 avenues for these people to go to, and I'm referring to Joey Earls, I'm referring to the mayor and his chief administrator office. This is not the first contract like this, and I think that we need to take a good look at the whole system here. So I would ask that we send this back to committee. I think.
Do we need a substitute motion in order to bring it back to the committee?
No, I can bring it back.
The chairs can still pull it if they want.
The chair can take it back.
I agree with Donna. There wasn't only 3 at the finance meeting, and I guess I can do it as a chairperson, send it back to committee.
Jack, you'd need to withdraw your previous motion.
So I will withdraw my previous motion.
Larry had his hand up, I don't think it's still...
Larry?
Well, I was just going to agree with what Donna had to say. I think we have some problems when this is the third one of these that's come to us, and we have to pay somebody from outside to come in and settle squabbles that we have with employees and department heads. If we have a problem with an employee and a department head, we need to determine who's running the show and then let them run the show. I don't think we need to pay $75 an hour to have somebody tell us that that's the way it's going to be. If we can't do it that way, then we got the wrong person running the show. And I think that the mayor ought to step into this. These are his department heads. This is his city. He's the administrative official in charge of these people, and he ought to take control of this situation and settle it.
The next item is claims.
Just a minute, we haven't voted on this yet.
We don't have to.
Nothing to vote on.
I sent it back.
Or you're just sending it back, all right. Okay.
Although a quorum was not present, the members in attendance recommended the council approve claims totaling $216,228.66, and I so move.
Are there any questions or comments? Would you call the roll, please? Or is it just a motion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have judicial review.
Yes, there's a correction on this attendance. Larry McLaughlin was not in attendance. The only two people there were Fred and I, and Elena was present, but she was not a member of the committee. The committee recommends the council approve a resolution in support of the establishment of a paid state holiday commemorating the birth of Martin Luther King Jr. And I so move, and I would speak to this. The way I understand this resolution, it will go to the House, be introduced there, and would replace Heritage Day. There was some discussion about the cost if the city adopted this, and I would ask Chuck just what it would cost if the city did it on its own. Do you know, Chuck?
Well, if you're just talking about changing the observance of Heritage Day to January 21st or the third Monday or whenever in January, there would be no direct cost there because you're taking an existing city holiday that you can control and put it. If you're talking about adding an additional city holiday, it would be approximately $28,000.
I'm sorry, Chuck, the number again?
$28,000.
Are there any other
Just a minute. The way I understand it, and Fred can correct me, this would go to the House and would become part of Harry Fritz's proposal to replace Heritage Day, right?
Fred?
Yeah. I have a couple of comments. First of all, as a resolution, it's my understanding that there would be a public hearing this evening prior to our adoption and that our discussion should come afterwards. To answer Jack's question, I did not talk to Harry Fritz about this, nor have I had any contact with him for since before the election. This is something I've talked about for years. I think that it's appropriate for us to do this, but the intention here is to, as I understand Harry's proposal, which is in the hopper in the Senate, is to move Heritage Day from the current day as designated by the governor to the third Monday in January. So if that proposal were accepted and we were to follow it, the net effect would be, as Chuck says, 0.
Seeing how this is a resolution, I will open it up for comments from the public.
Before you do that, Bill,
Yes, sir.
I wonder, Jack, if you would read it, or if you would like, I would be happy to read it into the minutes. This is a resolution by the Missoula City Council and Mayor in support of the establishment of a paid state holiday commemorating the birth of Martin Luther King, Jr. Whereas Martin Luther King, Jr. was one of this country's most widely recognized and highly regarded leaders, both at home and abroad, and whereas Dr. King's contribution to nonviolent resistance, civil rights, and peace have had an abiding effect on people throughout this country and around the world, and whereas a federal holiday commemorating the birth of Martin Luther King, Jr. has been established and adopted, and whereas with only 3 exceptions, including Montana, the rest of these United States have deemed it fitting and appropriate to establish parallel state holidays honoring and commemorating the accomplishments and legacy of Dr. King. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Missoula City Council and the Mayor do hereby endorse the effort to establish the 3rd Monday in January as Martin Luther King Day in honor of Dr. King's birth and in commemoration of his contributions to peace and nonviolent struggle. Be it further resolved that the Missoula City Council and the Mayor encourage citizens in Missoula and throughout the state to set aside a period of time this January 21st to discuss and reflect upon the contributions and legacy of Dr. King.
Yes, Elaine?
I also support honoring the memory of Dr. King with this paid holiday instead of the Heritage Day that's currently being celebrated as the day after Thanksgiving. I think people think little about Heritage Day the day after Thanksgiving other than they get the day off. I also support Harry Fritz's idea to switch Heritage Day to Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. We're not paying for an extra holiday. I think perhaps reflection on Dr. King's legacy will inspire commitment to a spirit of service and celebration of life.
Are there any other people who would wish to speak on this resolution? I think now this is being brought up as a resolution without a hearing. It's open to the public for a hearing.
Good evening. My name is Randy Erickson, and I'm the ASUM City Council representative, so I'll be seeing all of you more and more frequently. But tonight I'm not going to speak to you as a representative from ASUM or as a representative from any form of student council. Rather, I'm speaking to you on behalf of myself as a student and a citizen of Missoula. What I'd like to tell you today is that I'm joined by several representatives from different campus organizations, including the Student Coalition for Social Reform, ASUM Senators, the Black Student Union, the Student Social Work Association, the Golf Club, the Japanese Club, Big Sky Taekwondo, Wilderness Studies and Info Center and Information Center Group, and the Kiyayo Club. They've all joined with me in body and spirit to support Fred Rice's resolution. As you all know, Martin Luther King was a great man, and his accomplishments were tantamount to no one, and his effect in our society was incredible. But civil rights in general, the accomplishments that have been made in regards to civil rights in our country cannot be neglected. Martin Luther King Day stands as a tribute not just to the man and his accomplishments, but to every civil rights movement that's ever come through this United States. Our country is founded upon equality, as you all know, and it is founded upon civil rights, the Bill of Rights, for example. But if we neglect to celebrate Martin Luther King Day, then we're not only neglecting the man and his accomplishments, but we are neglecting every major civil rights movement that's occurred. And you could think of them, they affect all of us, every one of us in this room. The black movement, minority movements, the gay movement, and a variety of others, including the women's movement, the movement toward helping out people with AIDS. There are a variety of them, they're everywhere, and they affect every single one of us. We simply cannot overlook this holiday. There's another point I would like to mention to you. In reflecting upon the holidays, having just survived them myself, and holidays in general, I noticed that there's not one holiday in this country that commemorates the civil rights movements that have occurred in this country. How can we neglect a vast majority of our people without honoring them with some form of holiday? Martin Luther King Day has come to stand for that. That's why I've come to speak for it. I propose that we accept Fred Rice's resolution, push it through the Senate, or pardon me, push it through the legislature, and let's not be one of those 3 states anymore. With that, I introduce myself and thank you.
Would you introduce yourself and give your address again? We didn't get you up there.
Sure, it's Randy, R-A-N-D-I, Erickson, 616 North 2nd Street West. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? I don't suppose so. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in favor of this?
Hi, my name is Lisa Parks, and I promise I don't make it a point to show up weekly and you know, bother you with my concerns, although I feel it's imperative. I have felt a grave necessity to do so during the last 2 weeks, given the circumstances. Tonight I'm here as not only a student, but also as a member of the Missoula community and as a Montanan, to express my gratitude to Fred Rice for introducing this resolution, and to let you know that I feel it is incumbent upon you to take this initiative and reverse the embarrassing situation that Montana now has on the Martin Luther King Day issue. We're, as the speaker before me indicated, we are one of 3 states in this country that has not yet officially recognized this as a state holiday. And I just, you know, I feel like we're at a point now where there's absolutely no excuse for that, and there is really no reason not to support this resolution. I would also just mention that other counties and state administrations have been able to afford this holiday, and I don't think that financial considerations should even be an issue at this point. That there are ways to alleviate this problem easily, and that, you know, are very feasible and practical. So I would just like to encourage all of you to support this resolution, and I'm sure that, you know, a lot of people will be extremely happy if you decide to do so. Thank you.
Could we get your address?
Lisa Parks, 614 Gerald in Missoula.
Yes, Larry?
Lisa, could I ask you one question?
Yes.
When you were talking about alleviating the financial responsibility or the financial impact, were you talking about changing Heritage Day? Is that the solution? You said it was easily done. Is that the solution?
Yes, and there was a mention, well, somebody brought up the fact that it would cost $28,000, and I assume that meant if it was added as a holiday.
That's correct.
And I think that, you know, that we've discovered that's not necessary if we do change Heritage Day to Martin Luther King's.
So that's what you were speaking of?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Or is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this resolution?
My name is Jim Parker, 935 Warden. Thank you, Mr. Rice, for introducing this, and I hope that everyone will realize that we're living in America, and America's a great nation, and if we believe in America, we should believe in what it stands for: equal rights, civil rights to all. Montana is a great state, and in Montana is part of America. And I think we better join with America, who all but 3 states, Montana being one, has decided to utilize a day in our calendar to honor Martin Luther King Jr. And if the rest of America feels that way, Montana should feel that way with America, to join with America in solidarity. And I'm very disturbed that a member of the council feels that this is some sort of joke by introducing resolutions, a request for days and days of all different folks, including Walt Disney. And I'm perturbed that Mr. McLaughlin feels that this is a joking matter, and I'm sorry you do, because I think that shames America. So I hope that the City Council will adopt Martin Luther King Day, and you can change it for Heritage Day. I think that would be a fine request and something to follow. Thank you.
Just a response to that, I don't consider it a joke at all. I consider all these resolutions, these people that I've mentioned here to be great Americans, each and every one of them. Each and every one of them have contributed a great deal to our heritage and to the life that we now enjoy, and I feel that they also need to be recognized. So I don't consider this to be a joke whatsoever.
Difference of opinion.
For anyone else who wishes to speak on this resolution? Seeing no one, being no one, oh, yeah, that's right. Next we will, council discussion, yeah. Council discussion on the motion. Yes, Larry?
Well, since the last speaker brought up the resolutions, I'll continue on with what he brought forth. I have no problem with the Martin Luther King Day. I have no problem with anybody recognizing the contributions that Martin Luther King made to the country and to the civil rights movement in the United States. But I think it's also important to recognize that there are other people throughout the years who've contributed a great deal to what we now have in the United States, including the health that we have, the happiness that we have, and some of the other things that all put together make us what we are today. The resolutions that I brought forth to the JR Committee were, and I will read them into the record, a resolution regarding an Albert Einstein Day, a resolution regarding a Jonas Salk Day, a resolution regarding a Thomas Edison Day, a resolution regarding George Washington Carver Day, a resolution regarding Walt Disney Day, a resolution regarding Jeanette Rankin Day, a resolution regarding Benjamin Franklin Day, a resolution regarding Abraham Lincoln Day, a resolution regarding Dwight D. Eisenhower Day, a resolution regarding John F. Kennedy Day, a resolution regarding John Wayne Day, and a resolution regarding George Washington Day. Each and every one of these individuals in their own way have contributed a great deal. Some may laugh at Walt Disney, but Walt Disney, everyone in this room and everybody in the audience knows what Walt Disney meant to them and knows what he did for their childhoods. John Wayne the same way. We don't recognize our presidents anymore by having a day named after them. We have an All Presidents Day. We used to have an Abraham Lincoln Day and a George Washington Day. We used to recognize them on their birthdays. We don't do that anymore. I think it's a shame that we don't, but I think it's also, the reason I brought these forward is to show the people in this room and the people on this council that there's a problem with the way we honor the great people of this country. I think we ought to have a Great Americans Day. Heritage Day, I think, is a poor choice. I think that Elena is exactly right. I think it's just another day off, and I don't think people reflect upon anything. But I think a day such as a Great Americans Day, where everybody could honor those people whom they personally felt have contributed to what they now enjoy in America, is the way we ought to do this. I don't consider this a joke at all. I consider it to be very serious. And this is the way I feel we ought to go about it. I have a problem with trying to recognize one person at the expense of everybody else, because we cannot recognize all these people in this manner. And that's where my problems lie.
Yes, Donna?
I think there's been many martyrs in the civil rights movement, and perhaps if we think of Martin Luther King as a symbol of that, that is correct. But certainly he is not the only one that has been sacrificed for civil rights, and those sacrifices continue. I don't I have a little problem with people who think that if we adopt this day as Martin Luther King, it will show people that we are not prejudiced. Many legislators, not necessarily, not in this state, but many legislators and other people in public have felt smug because they observed or voted for Martin Luther King Day, but it did not really change their prejudice. All it did was give them a day off. I think it would be smug to adopt this day and then say, aha, we did our bit. Civil rights is still just two words in a lot of people's vocabulary. In a lot of Native American people don't have civil rights. And if we get to feeling superior to those people who have showed their prejudice against blacks, let's look around us and think how we in Montana sometimes have treated the Native Americans. I like the title Heritage Day, but as Elena and Larry have pointed out, because it falls on the day after Thanksgiving, it really has become a big shopping day instead of a Heritage Day. So I support the Martin Luther King Day, but I think it has the wrong title. I think there are a lot of other people that also deserve recognition for the things that they have done to obtain the right to vote and the other civil rights thing. I am concerned about this resolution not specifically saying that it will replace Heritage Day, and I'm concerned about the $28,000, and that would only go up. It might be $28,000 this year, but it would be more in the future. I would like to amend it to say in place of Heritage Day.
Anyone wish to speak on the amendment? Fred?
Just a point of clarification of Donna, where would you insert that particular change? I would accept it as a friendly amendment. That was the intent, so. How about after third Monday in January in the first resolved?
Oh, you.
Yeah. Not, we've already established what day we're talking about. Or how about as the Heritage Day, since it's up to the jurisdiction to decide. It's up to the jurisdiction to decide where it is, and the state to decide where Heritage Day is. Heritage Day is an official state holiday.
I don't care where it's inserted, just so it's there and clear that we are not adopting another holiday.
Any comments on the amendment? Yes, Doug?
I'd just like some clarification. Fritz's bill changes Heritage Day to the third Monday in January and then replaces it, right, with Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday.
Yes,
If you'll permit me to indulge myself and yourselves in a bit of a historical recap. It seems to me my understanding of American history is that in order to get the Declaration of Independence signed, a certain issue of slavery was brushed under the rug. That was in the 18th century. In the 19th century, it came ultimately back to haunt us, hence our Civil War, and a great American by the name of Abraham Lincoln, as well as thousands of other great Americans that were willing to take a stand on that issue, forced it, and hence our bloody war. But we did get, that issue was dealt with, and on paper, all men were said to be created equal to the point where their freedom was established. But then it took another 100 years for another brave American and many thousands of other brave Americans, but him as the standard bearer, to force the issue again. And I'm a pragmatic person, and I know that if a person is a racist in their heart, that no matter how much I mandate that they cannot be a racist, it's not going to change that. I know that. But I don't think it hurts to recognize Martin Luther King as the standard bearer who was willing to put his neck out to the point of his own life to force this issue of human rights that had been signed and sealed out in the open in the 20th century. And I don't see it strictly as a white-black issue either. I see him representing the interests of all Americans, of all colors, of all minorities. And I would be proud to vote yes on this amendment. And I do think it's time that Montana join the rest of the nation.
With apologies for parliamentary maneuvers, I would like to suggest that we add it as a dependent clause after the word struggle, put a comma, thereby replacing the Heritage Day holiday. It's the only way it seems to work. So that would be the amendment, and I would, if it's okay with the chair, I would be happy to accept that as part of the original motion, if it's okay with Jack, thereby cutting through an extra vote here for the moment.
Very well, if it's all right with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
So Fred, at the end of the first therefore, it says thereby replacing
Right.
Heritage Day.
Heritage Day holiday.
Very well, if there's no more comments from the council.
Those were parliamentary.
Yes, right.
I believe that, as has already been stated by a number of the speakers earlier from the public, that Montana is long overdue in taking care of this. I think that it is a point well taken that the indigenous people of Montana have been widely overlooked by both our laws and our institutions, except for our prisons perhaps, in the history of the state. I don't think that that's a good reason not to vote in favor of this resolution or to urge our representatives to pass a similar measure that would establish a state holiday for Dr. King. I think that to see Dr. King's contributions only in the context of the African American struggle of the 50s and 60s is to do exactly as Bob says, which is to sort of miss the point. We are talking about not just 100 years or 200 years of struggle, but 300 years of struggle in the case of the African Americans, and we are now talking about similar durations for the indigenous peoples of North America. I think that no measure, either a holiday or a resolution by a representative body such as our own, will change the way that we treat people. But the part of this that I care most deeply about is in the last part of the resolution, which is that we take time on that day that is set aside to reflect on the contributions and legacy of Dr. King. That is what I hope to do during part of that day, and I hope that others will do so as well. I urge your support for this resolution.
Anyone else wish to speak on the resolution?
I'd like to say one more thing. I guess those that see what Martin Luther King Jr. accomplished will recognize his contributions to society with or without the holiday. I actually find it a little tough to talk about a holiday tonight, especially when you have the whole course of history that could be changed, just in hours. And so that's a little difficult for me. It's a Heritage Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. You can call it what you want. I think if people just recognize the accomplishments of some people in our society. And more than that, to be inspired by them or to move ahead, I think that's more important than talking about stuff like this. But I know it needs to be discussed. I know this will come up in the state Senate. I know Chief Joseph Day will come up in the state Senate. I mean, there are, as Larry said, there are a lot of people that need to be recognized. And I think we need to be drawn from some of these people and moving ahead in our own culture and our own lives.
Larry?
In view of the way that I feel and the way that I've spoken about some of these other people that I think that have contributed to our culture, and in view of the way that I feel about Martin Luther King, I feel he was a great American also and should probably be placed right along at the top of this list with these other people under what I consider to be a great American's Day. I cannot vote against this resolution, but at the same time, with the feelings that I've got, I can't vote for it. So I'll pass on this.
Any further comments? Would you call the roll, please?
On the resolution as amended. Potts.
Yes.
Reidy.
Yes.
Rice. Yes. Shaffer.
Yes.
Shea.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Hermes.
Yes.
Luceno.
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Yes.
Would the past care to change his vote?
No.
No change. 8-0-1.
Resolution carried.
No.
8-1-8?
Next, we go to the Judicial Review Committee. No, wait a minute.
No, we've done that.
Plat Annexation and Zoning Committee.
That's me again. Resolution to correct the legal description of resolution number 5102 for Elko compost. The committee recommends that the council adopt a resolution to correct the Elko compost legal description as described in resolution number 5102, and I so move.
Are there any comments, questions? Very well, it's the roll call.
Reidy.
Yes.
Rice. Yes. Schaefer.
Yes.
Shea.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Hermes.
Yes.
Luceno.
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Yes.
Potts.
Yes.
9-0.
Next, we go to the Public Safety Committee.
The committee recommends the council approve the medical retirement of Officer Dean Bossack, and I would so move.
That was handled under consent agenda.
Oh, that's right, excuse me. Well, then there isn't anything.
That was fun.
Yeah. I got to clobber his name, too.
Next, we go to the Public Works Committee. Elaine?
Number 1, change order to Ernst & Young sewer rate study contract to complete project. The committee recommended that the City Council adopt a resolution to modify the municipal contract between Arthur Young and the City of Missoula, approving change order number 1 in accordance with Section 7-5-4308, Montana Code Annotated, and I so move.
Are there any questions, comments?
Bill, just so that the rest of the council understands where the $1,163 payment came from, that is the amount of money difference between Ernst & Young's bid and the next lowest bid. It's $1 less than the next lowest bid. Therefore, we feel that we're getting the work that we've got, that we requested. They are getting a payment for some additional work that they felt they did and requested additional payment for, and we would still be serviced by the lowest bid.
Are there any other comments? Yes.
Well, I have a question. Earlier in that paragraph, it says they have requested $4,500 to complete the final report, but they're not getting that, are they? They are getting an additional $1,163?
That's correct. Chuck, would you want to elaborate on that at all?
Ernst & Young had originally requested $4,500, and I responded thinking that that was far too high, both on a percentage and absolute dollar basis. He came back and said, well, how about 2,000 to 2,500? I took that to each of the members of the sewer rate subcommittee, and pretty much the consensus was somewhere between $500 and $1,500. And then Larry made the motion for $1,163 rather than up to $1,500 or thereabouts.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good.
It's not related to the motion per se. Chuck, when will that report be done?
I wrote Rick Jardina last week and told him we'd like to see the report in February or March. I've not heard back from him yet.
We have the next.
Yes, we have two more items. Number 2, Cooperative Education Internship Program Placement Agreement. The committee recommends the City Council approve the Cooperative Education Internship Program Placement Agreement and authorize the mayor to sign it, and I so move.
Are there any comments or questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Shaffer.
Yes.
Shea.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Hermes.
Yes.
Luceno.
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Yes.
Potts.
Yes.
Reidy.
Yes.
Rice.
Yes.
9-0.
Number 3, request for proposals for engineering services for preparation of rattlesnake transportation plan. The committee recommends the City Council approve the request for proposals for the rattlesnake transportation plan and authorize the advertising for consulting services, and I so move.
Are there any questions, comments? Yes, Donna?
I'm concerned where the money is going to come from, and didn't those contractors, T&T, pledge $25,000 to a, or was it 20? It seems logical then that we would use that money to pay for this.
Fred?
Excuse me, Don, I believe that money was going to be set aside to work with the trail system rather than this study, but perhaps Joe could shed some light on this.
That's not true. Tell that crew. Better not me.
Joe Aldigary, Public Works Director. There was I guess a discussion as to exactly where that money would come from, and there's probably a variety of places. When we were talking about the contribution that T&T Construction was going to be making in lieu of installation of curb gutter and sidewalk on Rattlesnake Drive, I think the discussion in committee pretty much centered around using that to actually build something, or perhaps even to take that money and to develop that shoulders on Rattlesnake Drive, at least from that development down to the Rattlesnake School, to get the school children from that subdivision back down there. I don't think there's any decision been made by the council as to exactly where to pay for this transportation plan or where to apply that money. That was just a discussion item.
Bill?
Yes.
I have a concern, Elaine, with something you just said. That money was not earmarked for trail system, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know where
I
that
think the
came from.
discussion in committee last week, that's where that comment came from. I inferred that money was, the discussion was about a trail system rather than this particular project.
well, correct me if I'm wrong, but when it came before the council, wasn't that money earmarked for improving the traffic situation along that street? Isn't that where that came from?
I don't think there was an actual decision made by the council, but that was a discussion both on council floor that night and also in the committee, that it was to be used for either trails and or some traffic improvement on Rattlesnake Drive. I guess I was thinking that wide shoulders constitutes a part of the trail system.
Well, I understand that. If it's to be used for wide shoulders, I could agree with that, but I want to make sure that it's used for Rattlesnake Drive because I think that's where that money was earmarked for. I don't want to put somewhere else up in the Rattlesnake earmarked for a trail system further up or something like that.
Yes, Fred?
Yeah, I think we should all go back and perhaps re-examine the record. I believe that the discussion was originally that it would be for improvements on Rattlesnake Drive. There was, I believe, some discussion in committee. I wasn't privy to it, but I recall reading something about it, and Nick Kaufman in the public hearing suggested that in response to a question, I believe from Richard Goldsmith, that they take the $20,000 and throw it at the traffic study. I believe that's how we got to where we are right now.
That's correct.
That's the way I remember it.
Yes, Doug?
How much does it cost to request proposals for this transportation plan?
Just the cost of advertising. What happens is after a firm is selected, then we'll go into the negotiation stage, and then from there we would have to come back to the council for approval of a contract to spend any money.
Are there any other comments? Fred?
As the council may recall, I had some concern about this RFP before it was developed. I still have concerns about the RFP, which Elaine graciously held this item in committee until I could arrive rather late to discuss it. The issue which takes care of most of my concerns is found on page 2, item 7, having to do with public involvement. I have received numerous comments in the last couple of weeks, and in fact was in the mayor's office today when a call came in from a citizen in the Rattlesnake who was interested in participating in the traffic subcommittee that may or may not be formed as a result of some discussions that have occurred in the last several months regarding the way in which the city will provide services in the Rattlesnake. It's would be understating things considerably to say that there's a little bit of interest about traffic in the Rattlesnake. It's like being a little bit pregnant. There's a lot of concern, and I think it is something that needs to be emphasized when we deal with deciding on who will get this contract. And Joe has indicated that there will be an opportunity for council comment before the contract goes out, and I presume those of us with an interest in seeing that the public component is a part of this will be given an opportunity to make sure that that does occur. And I appreciate the care that Joe has given this particular concern. I think it's not just a good idea, but I think it will make a successful project.
Are there any other comments or questions on this? Would you call the roll, please?
It's not a contract yet.
Oh, I see. It's marked roll call in the minutes. Next, I guess we have the rules committee.
We still have to vote.
We have to vote, not a roll call, though.
Oh, on the,
It doesn't have to be a roll call.
doesn't have to be roll call, very well. All in favor of the engineering services, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we go to the rules committee. Just a moment, there is a resolution that I called for a voice vote that was supposed to be a roll call, and that's the change order to Ernest & Young sewer rate study. So if you would call the roll on that, please.
Rice.
Thank you. Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Shea.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Hermes.
Yes.
Luceno.
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Yes.
Potts.
Yes.
Reidy.
Yes.
9-0.
Now we go to the Rules Committee.
The committee believes that allowing the chair to send items back to the committee without a city council vote has not been a problem, nor has it been abused. Therefore, the Rules Committee does not recommend any city council rules change at this time. And on the other matter, on our agenda, Pledge of Allegiance, City Councilman Jack Reidy will contact the veterans organizations in the community to determine if they have any interest in, once again, participating in saying the Pledge of Allegiance at City Council meetings twice a month. The Pledge of Allegiance ceremony would be conducted by the veterans organization. So that has been held in committee. End of report.
I see the mayor has come in, and this would be a very good place to turn it over to him. General comments of the city council members.
Thank you very much, Bill. We'll start with Ward 1. Mrs. Shea.
There's been a lot of discussion tonight about Martin Luther King Jr., and it's a good time to talk about him. He was an extraordinary man who made actually he was just an ordinary person. I think he was very modest, but his contribution was extraordinary to the world. His legacy, leadership, and testimony that one person can really make a difference. That part of his dream lives on. I worked with Martin Luther King Sr. as a VISTA volunteer in Atlanta in 1966. I was naive and idealistic and young, and I guess I thought I could help people. It was quite an experience. And when Bob Luceno just spoke about the dichotomy, if you will, of the difference between law and practice, I will always remember that, because we were at, and the mayor was there too, we were at a lunch counter, and no one waited on us, never realizing that we were probably there about 20 minutes, and the reason why the person didn't wait on us was because there were black people and there were white people together. Now, the law was, the civil rights law had already been passed. There was no law that prohibited us from receiving service, but the practice was different. It takes people a while to catch up with law. I had an opportunity to be back in Atlanta in October, last October, and it was wonderful to see how the city has grown. It was just tremendous. I really enjoyed it. It was very moving. There's now a National Historic Site and Park District surrounding Dr. King's birthplace so that you can go there. This is a very upscale, originally was a very upscale black neighborhood where only blacks who were professional lived there. And so it's Victorian in nature, Victorian style, Queen Anne, very, very cultured. There's the Center for Nonviolent Studies, a wonderful museum. A lot of work has been done. Dr. King would have been 62 years old tomorrow. Let us join together in his memory to build a better world by beginning in our home communities, to work for peace, justice, dignity for all people, regardless of color, race, or other barriers. There's been much work that has already been done, but in terms of civil rights, discrimination, prejudice, and something that someone said tonight, dignity, there's much to be yet is to be accomplished.
Thank you. Mr. Rice.
Thank you, Elaine. Next year, I want you to write the resolution. You always do that much better than I can. I'd like to rise in support of the suggestion that Tracy made earlier this evening, that that once the first shot is fired, if it is fired in the course of war in the Persian Gulf, that we agree to close down a street and declare that there will not be business as usual until such time as some kind of peaceful resolution or a ceasing of hostilities comes in the Middle East. On Performance Today, a program on National Public Radio that is aired by KUFM on, I believe, almost every daily basis. They had a performance by the Vilnius choir that was here this past summer. Vilnius, of course, is the capital city of Lithuania. It was a rather interesting juxtaposition. Of course, Lithuania is being subjected to a vigorous police action today. And the comments at the end of All Things Considered this evening was that there really isn't peace in the world. There's war in the Sudan, there's war in Somalia, there's war all over the world. We just are not perhaps as sensitized to it. As I listened to the comments in Congress, as many other Missoulians did over the past couple of days, particularly Friday and Saturday, I was struck both by the strengths and the weaknesses of the system that we work under, the representative system that we work under, and how difficult it seems to be sometimes for our representatives to rise above the level of their own limited vision. We do it here. It was interesting after the vote in the House that the commentators on National Public Radio fumbled around trying to remember where Jeanette Rankin was from. Well, I sat in my kitchen trying to figure out why it was that the Democratic leadership was unable to prevail on this, what seemed to me a fairly clear-cut situation. Well, talking to people today, it seemed fairly likely that a lot of people's minds were not on what they were supposed to be doing, but on events long, far away. I hope that the end result of the vigil that begins tomorrow will be a peaceful, negotiated settlement in the Middle East, and I know that others here join me in that.
Mrs. Shaffer.
I want to thank the people of Missoula, and particularly those people in my ward who have been so very patient about the streets. You just can't have snow without having problems, not that much snow. And I want to particularly thank the street department for coming out about 6 or 7 o'clock one night to take care of a particularly dangerous corner where the drivers had a choice of stopping and getting stuck for sure, or going out into the other street and maybe getting hit by a car. And the street department came out and fixed that. I hope, as I'm sure everyone does, that day after tomorrow and next week and the week after that, we'll still be able to talk, and our main problems, or some of our main problems, will be the legal description of eco-compost, or the sewer system rates. And if that is true, I'll even be willing to go on talking about pesticides for another month after month.
Thank you, Donna. Mr. Luceno.
I heard a news broadcast a while back, and they were talking about a group in Germany who wanted to test out people's attitudes on the Persian Gulf crisis. And what they did was offer about a 35 to 40% discount at a gasoline station, compliments of Saddam Hussein, with his pictures plastered all over the gas station. And they were curious to see how many people would show up at the gas pumps to take advantage of the deal. And then they would interview the people as they were getting their gasoline. And they discovered that they had lines. People lined up for the deal, and very, very few people had much to say about the peace and justice of the issue. They were very much more concerned with the money that they were saving. And I'm sorry to say, but market conditions do determine what people do sometimes. And as with the other speakers, I also hope that we're only talking about municipal and state issues next week. But if war does start, I can assure all of us that things will not be as usual. And I respect that idea about closing the road, and that comes with the best of intentions. I think that if a full-blown war happens, it's entirely conceivable that gasoline prices could rise as much as 300 to 400%, and I think that that will definitely affect the amount of traffic that is on our streets here in Missoula, and I trust that that won't happen. And as Mr. Foley said in the House of Representatives the other day, he himself even offered a public prayer, and I think there's a few moments in history when all we can do is turn and pray, and obviously this is one of those times.
Mr. Harrison.
Had the opportunity last week to meet with several of our legislators, and while I don't envy the task that's before them because they have many difficult decisions to make, I do hope that this legislative session will accomplish more than positioning for the next election. And I think if all this legislative session does accomplish is that, I hope that someone introduces legislation to limit the terms. This state has many, many challenges in front of it, and we need people that can put their self-interest aside to take care of the needs of the state, and I wish them the best over there.
Mr. Hermes.
I echo everyone's call for peace in the Middle East, and I can only hope that Mr. Hussein sees the light of not being stubborn too long in that situation and has some flexibility so we can move forward with negotiations rather than war. On a local note, Joe, I might have a question for you. I know I mentioned this before last spring. It appears the traffic problem on Higgins, Southwest Higgins and 39th is, maybe it was just today because it was wet, but the cars are literally bumper to bumper from Bancroft, Southwest Higgins to Russell Street, and almost to 23rd from about 7:30 to 8, which I know is rush hour, but I think it's crying for a turning lane on Bancroft so the students can turn to Sentinel High School and the other folks can proceed downtown toward Patty Canyon. Do you have any updates for me on that situation?
Yes, Joe Aldergrave, Public Works Director. Yes, Bob, there are two projects which are scheduled for this spring on Southwest Higgins. One is that left turn lane that you're talking about so that the northeastbound traffic can turn left to go north on Bancroft. And then the intersection of High Park, Stevens, and Southwest Higgins will also be reconstructed to additional lanes and widening. And that's both scheduled for this spring.
Thank you.
Just before you go, what about the lights there, Joe, and down at Door Lane?
I haven't heard from the Department of Highways. They were doing what they call a warrant study for the intersection of 23rd and Door Lane and 39th, and also for the intersection I just spoke of, Southwest Higgins and where High Park and Stevens comes in. And I know they're working on it, but I haven't gotten the results of it yet. The intersection that we're doing, though, the High Park, Stevens, and Southwest Higgins, we will be burying conduit underneath the pavement in anticipation of a signal there at some time.
Do you have anything else, Bob?
No, thanks.
Mr. McLaughlin.
As the deadline for the war approaches tonight, we should all pray for peace. I think everybody has relatives, friends, and loved ones that are directly involved with this, everybody in the country. We should all pray that this last night some type of resolution will come out of the darkness. If in fact it does go to war, I've read some things about it that say that we could lose as many as 10,000 dead. That's a lot of young men and women from this country for a situation like this. But if we need to go, we need to go. And I would only hope that the politicians would let the military run the war so that this war can be ended in a hurry as soon as it possibly can. And that this country will welcome back those who fought into open arms this time around. I'd hate to see this country divide itself as it did over Vietnam and have the soldiers come home to a country that doesn't appreciate what they did for them. So I would only hope that this gets over in a hurry and that as many as possible come home safely.
Mr. Reidy.
I could only add to what Larry said about praying for peace. I think the blame could be passed around to just about anybody you wanted to point at. It's pointless now. It's in the hand of the good Lord to pray for peace, pray for our service people, and pray for our country.
Thank you, Jack. Mr. Ross. Is there any staff comments this evening?
Several quick items. On Wednesday, January 16th and Wednesday, January 30th, there will be public meetings held in the City Council chambers here regarding the progress and work to be done on the baseball ballpark and franchise. It'll be here this Wednesday starting at 7:30 p.m. and the public and council members are all invited. I put on the council members' desks this evening what we believe is the final draft agreement of the Shady Grove development agreement between the city, Accessible Space Incorporated, and the Montana Mobility Impaired Housing Incorporated group. I think that we have all the discussions done with all three parties, and it'll just take final council approval. I will be in Helena on Thursday, but would like to have the council act on this agreement. If you have any questions after reading the final agreement, you can call me on Tuesday or Wednesday, or we can bring up the issues on the floor also. The only additions to this agreement from the December 10th are adding Section 5 environmental conditions and adding an exhibit. And then finally, even though it's not on the agenda, we would like to have a short legislative caucus after the meeting to inform the council of legislative issues that are coming up this week and gauge your opinion.
Elaine?
Chuck, I just had one question. The first baseball franchise meeting, this public meeting is Wednesday, January 16th here at 7:30. And when was the second one?
Wednesday, January 30th at 7:30.
Thank you.
Right here also.
Any other staff comment? I just had one item that I may as well do now. Those of you who were involved with the meeting that we had with Bozeman city officials a couple of months ago will remember that we had agreed to meet with them again during the session in Helena. We'll be doing that on Friday, January 25th, which is Local Government Day in Helena, and I expect that we will be probably having a dinner meeting with them. They would like to know if we have any items that we particularly want to discuss. I told them that I thought we would probably want to spend most of the time just talking about items that are before the legislature. But if any of you do have any items that you want to discuss with them, want them to come prepared to discuss, be sure to let me know. Jack?
Will there be any chance to be a big enough group going over that perhaps there'd be a bus going over on that day?
We could sure check that out. It might be a possibility. We'll start keeping track of who all wants to go, and we'll have Larry work on trying to get a list together. All right. Chuck's offered the blue van. All right, any other staff comment? If not, we will go on to new business. Is there any new business to come before the council? Referral items, Chuck?
Chuck, before you start on the referrals and you start reading all of my referrals, I wish to condense them all into one request by Larry McLaughlin regarding a resolution of Great Americans Day.
Great Americans Day?
Great Americans.
Okay. Request by Chuck Stearns regarding claims, regarding quarterly financial report, regarding budget transfer resolution, request by Joy Earls regarding request for COBRA administration by Intermountain administrators, request by Joy Earls regarding request for additional expenditures from Health Insurance Benefit Fund for summary plan document costs. Then the condensed request by Larry McLaughlin regarding resolution regarding Great Americans Day to judicial review. Request by Mike Kress regarding agreement to extend preliminary plat approval for Meadows North. Request by Bruce Bender regarding contract award for construction of Southwest Missoula Sanitary Sewer System Phase 1, 1990, Cold Springs East to Public Works. And request by Tim Hunter regarding program to accept hauled liquid waste at wastewater treatment plant to Public Works.
Are there any other referral items? Any other business? If not, we'll go on to announcements of committee meetings.
Jack, on finance, in addition to the regular meeting, which you might want to hold on Thursday, we would request a meeting on Monday night at 7 or 7:15 to consider and recommend awarding SID 495 bonds. We're going to open the bonds at 3 o'clock next Monday and would always like to act on those the same day.
All right. We'll have them Thursday at 3 and then next Monday night at 7:15.
And there's an 8th item on finance, the personnel consultant contract with the Parks Department. Dan, that was referred back to committee. Judicial review.
Thursday at 4.
Public safety.
There will be no meeting, but I have an announcement that I could make now. There will be a public hearing January 16th on the closing of Razor Drive Railroad Crossing. This public hearing will be held in the courthouse by the county commissioners at 1:30 in room 201.
Public Works.
Public Works Wednesday at 3. Wednesday? Tuesday. Isn't that what you asked?
Well, that would be Joe. Wednesday at 3.
Well, at least we were all obeyed. Got mine.
But
Wednesday at 3 is Wednesday at 3. That's pretty clear.
Budget committee.
Wait till Al comes back. Isn't that the standard answer to that one?
I won't be here.
Cable TV committee.
Wednesday at 4.
Conservation.
No.
Economic development.
No business as usual.
Plat annexation and zoning.
Tuesday at 4:30.
You can do it earlier, Larry.
It's possible. Immediately following JR.
JR meets
JR is on
Thursday.
Thursday.
You're the only one on Tuesday. After.
We'll have it at 4 o'clock then. Glad you said that.
You meet at 3 if you want.
Rules committee.
No meeting.
Sewer rate subcommittee. Sewer rate subcommittee.
No meeting?
Larry?
No meeting.
No meeting.
Sign ordinance subcommittee.
No meeting.
Sunlight lands committee.
I don't think the committee will be meeting, probably not until the week of February 4th, so no meeting this week.
Chuck, I need to ask Joe a question before you finalize this.
Okay.
Donna?
Is that all right if I ask Joe?
Joe?
Joe,
Donna has a question.
one of the items that was to be discussed at Public Works was the construction of the proposed Howard Razor Drive. Is that the railroad crossing, or is that a different issue?
Joe,
Well, Will told me you were going to refer that to the railroad crossing issue to the committee.
Well, we were thinking about referring it to committee, but unfortunately, the committee meeting, because of the other issues on there, we talked about having it on Wednesday, which would be after the county commissioners meeting.
That's my concern.
Right, so it would be too late. The only thing you could probably discuss is what was transpired at the county commissioners meeting. You may want to refer it anyway and perhaps bring it back to the council for maybe some sort of resolution or determination by council.
We were hoping to do that before the public hearing.
Well, the reason for having it on Wednesday is twofold. Number one, the item referred by Tim Hunter is one, but Tim Hunter will be in Helena tomorrow, and so he won't be here to present that item. And secondly, we opened bids today for the East Cold Spring sewer system, and we have a lot of work to do to prepare for the committee meeting, and we could not get that done for tomorrow. That's the reason we requested to have the meeting on Wednesday. If you still want to refer the item, perhaps, because the county commissioner is not going to make a decision tomorrow. It'll just be a hearing, on Wednesday, and then maybe you can bring the information back, then maybe we can have the committee discuss it and have the full council take some action. So perhaps you want to add that item then to the Public Works Committee meeting?
Yes, I'd like to refer that to Public Works then. And I would urge any city staff people that have opinions on this to come to the public hearing on Wednesday.
Okay, finance and license, Thursday at 3 p.m. and Monday, 1/21 at 7:15 p.m. Judicial review, Thursday at 4 p.m. No public safety. Public Works, Wednesday at 3. No budget committee. Cable TV committee, Wednesday at 4. No conservation committee. No economic development committee. Plat annexation and zoning, Tuesday at 4 p.m. And no meeting for rural sewer rate subcommittee, sign ordinance subcommittee, or sunlight lands subcommittee.
We will have a brief legislative update immediately following the meeting. If there's no further business, the meeting is adjourned.